Hello and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We are back again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And we've got a dual update of a twin dilemma here today on this one. We're covering, I think we'll cover both the Unbreakable updates and the Under Siege oh no, Unbreakable and Rebellion updates here. Sorry, again, I'm getting them all confused. Too many U's, but whatever. It is what it is. So, I think we'll have a look first at the Ultimate X match before we get going into too many of the other matches. They have announced some more of the participants. I'm not going to say much more than they've announced these participants because until they announce all the participants, which might happen next week, I'm not too sure. But until that field is kind of set, I feel like I can't really say too much. Though it is kind of nice to see Vikingo returning. He's in this match along with Matt Cardona and Leon Slater thus far. So two more competitors there to be added to this match at this current time. So we will wait till whenever, at whatever time they decide to update us on that, and I will stick with the rebellion stuff for now. I guess no. I think because it's all the other stuff from Rebellion is all title matches, but I guess I'm already talking about Rebellion, so yeah, let's stick with Rebellion. Master Slamovich versus Tessa Blanchard has been officially announced after Tessa beat Marsha in the last six-woman tag that they had there. Ethan Page and Frankie Kazarian are both challenging Joe Hendry at Rebellion for the TNA title. So it's interesting. Like, I'm on the fence. I'm very on the fence with Marsha and Tessa. Um, I start to think though, if like I think it's a really tough decision to make in some regards because there is a lot of negativity out there, and we've talked about that a lot. But yeah, I feel like ignoring that and looking at the division as a whole, you start to wonder to yourself, well, like, what's Marsha gonna do? Who's she gonna face if she beats Tessa? Like, not to say that she can't beat Tessa and she can't go on to face somebody else and then somebody else and then somebody else or whatever else it is. But right now that division feels extremely thin, and it feels like, well, you start thinking about, like, is it time to make a change just to keep things moving and keep things active and keep things kind of like progressing at some point? Because it's like this, like the story that is kind of between Marsha and Tessa can now start to be told really well. Like, this is now an actual active like dialogue, and it's hard for me to think that Tessa's gotten two wins over Marsha thus far. That it's like, you're not going to pay that off in some way. You're not going to have Tessa either win the title, proving that she's the best, or you're not going to have Marsha somehow pull out the win. I don't know, because it starts to feel to me like maybe this, like, you could hold off. You could, in fact, in my opinion, have Marsha win and then have Tessa do something to extend the feud and get to Slammiversary or whatever. But how you would do that is kind of like, up in the air to me. Like, and it's like, again, I kind of feel like this match almost should have been saved for Slammiversary because it's such a big match and such a big feud that it's like, well, kind of, like, what are we doing here? Like, at least it's not happening friggin' on, free TV or whatever else it is. But, like, it is a big match. And I'm still on the fence. I really am. I'm really on the fence with this because I think they could take it either way. But I do honestly feel like if you're taking into the account of the negativity that's around Blanchard and some of the negativity that's around TNA and whatnot in general, I think sometimes they do what they want to do. Like, they know that they've got a negative reputation sometimes, so they just go, fuck it, like, literally, like, we're going to do what we're going to do, and if people don't like it, people don't like it, but at a certain point, you've got to care about that stuff, because it affects people buying tickets, it affects people buying pay-per-views, it affects everything, it affects the whole business, and right now in the US, we know things aren't going too well in many regards, so people are going to have to start cutting back on quote-unquote these luxury type things, which are seeing these matches and stuff in person. So I don't know about... I know a lot of people have bought their tickets in advance as well of this event. So certainly, and again, this is trying to sell tickets, like, at the end of the day, like, to me, a great heel run from Tessa, if you have the right baby face for everyone to kind of get behind, could work. That could work. I could see that happening, and that would make sense to me if you said, okay, we're going to give her, I don't know, what is it now? It's April, and Bound for Glory is in October. May, June, July, August, September, October, like 6 or 7 months worth of a run up to Bound for Glory. I don't know. Even if you start to say Slammiversary, that's like 3 or 4 months, whatever it is. I think something like that. So I think it's in July, June, July. So I don't know. I don't know if you had it. If you had something there and it made sense, I feel like it would be good. I feel like, again, there's a lot of NXT people that Marsha can go up against, obviously. But on the TNA roster itself, it kind of feels like there's hardly any other challengers for Marsha except for Tessa. It's kind of like, pretty thin, as I've sort of said. But again, we're kind of hopeful of some of these potential WWE, ex-WWE people coming in potentially at some point, or even like some of these people who are from WWE or NXT specifically, I guess, to come over and wrestle. So it is one of those things where it's like, well, let's find out. Let's figure out, what would be best. Like, I honestly think, like, bringing over the heels to TNA is going to work way better than trying to bring over some random babyface from NXT to TNA. Like, and it doesn't make any sense that the TNA champion is going to be there that much to prove, like, if it's Tessa, to prove themselves. They're already, like, full of themselves type thing of saying, I'm the best, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, well, why would you, like, unless you're like, have a reason, like, and again, why are you giving that away on NXT to somebody there? Like, what's the point of, like, I can see the point of, like, her facing somebody over there if they want that, or they decided that. But, like, again, just, like, thinking about, like, does it make sense to bring over some baby faces for Tessa to beat up from NXT? Probably not, honestly, if she becomes champion. So then you've got to look at the roster, and the roster on the babyface side isn't too bad, I guess, but it's not like, I don't know, not what it should be in some ways, because it's like, well, you've got to kind of rule out like a few people here and there in some ways, and or kind of at least, and it's like, well, and it is interesting that to think about like people from like the tag team division or whatever, but I don't think that that's realistic. I do feel like I could come to a conclusion though. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not now, but maybe closer to the event, I might have a good guess. I don't know. I really feel like they've kind of positioned this thus far for Tessa, because it's like she beat Jordan Grace, right? And Marsha beat Jordan Grace. And it's like very few people, especially recently, have beaten Jordan Grace. But like, you know, I feel like they really put the emphasis on Tessa beating Grace, like in Texas, you know, all this sort of stuff. So in her hometown, etc., blah blah blah, to get Tessa, you know, like some serious stuff. If this was just, in my opinion, again, to bring in Tessa and like go, okay, we're going to give you a few months of stuff to do, then we're going to give you a chance at the title, and then bye. You know, it's like, or then you're just going to not do it or whatever. It's like, well, why do that? Like, why do that? Like, you're bringing her in for a reason. Not just to be like, oh, let's try stir up some controversy with this one, you know, or whatever else it is, or stir up some chatter with this one, you know. But you're there to be like, okay, we want to work together. We want to see what we can do together. You're here to work with us, and we're here to make money. And you know, this is the path forward. And you know, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Why that creative? This creative? Whatever. You can negate or debate or whatever it is, anything. And I get that some people want to debate this more so because of, I guess, the, well, not ramifications, but the, you know, ramifications held within, in a sense, which is, you know, that history that, you know, people know about Tessa or have heard about Tessa and whatnot. So again, I do feel like they really should have addressed that when she was being brought in and whatnot and all of that. It really should have been addressed then. So, you know, I feel like it's beyond the point at which they should have like considered to address this. So to me, you start looking at this now feels like something that they're not ever gonna touch. They're not ever gonna touch it. Realistically, they're not gonna go there. They're not gonna let people or whatever get this behind, no, not behind the eight ball, so to speak. So I feel like if they actually wanted Tessa to be in the company for a long period of time, and they actually wanted to do stuff with her, that is what they would have had to have done. If they knew that it was just a short period of time and they just wanted to sell out some buildings or whatever else it was, or tell a good story or whatever it was, or give her a second chance or whatever it was, then perhaps this is what they have done. You know, like they've given her a second chance, and she's done a lot of, like, in terms of, you know, ticket sales and buys and whatever else, it's like really hard to say. But again, she certainly hasn't tanked the sales, and they have just only gone up still. So to me right now, I feel like Marsha will win just due, unless they are actually just saying, okay, well, she's going to win it for a short period of time, then we're going to take it off of her. I don't know.
it doesn't sound right to me. It doesn't seem logical to me. I won't be too surprised if it does happen, but I am going to pick Masha, I think, because I think that the idea that they have is to, like, it, even perhaps, like, even if it is to put the belt on Tessa eventually, that they're not going to do it right now, that they'll probably, like, I don't know, I do feel like they're probably, like, playing this long game in some way or some shape or some form, that they're, like, trying to get to Slammiversary or something else or whatever else it is. Or maybe, like, they are waiting, they are just saying, oh, well, let's pull the trigger on this now and let's, do something else later at Bound for Glory or whatever. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking there at the moment, just based on their actions. Kazarian, Hendry, and Ethan. Like, Ethan's not winning this. Like, honestly. And I don't know whether the injury that Joe has sustained is a kayfabe injury. I'm feeling like it is, or if it's real. But I'm thinking that it's just kayfabe injury. He's not going to be at Under Siege, or he might be at Under Siege, but he's not going to be in a match at Under Siege. So like that show is going to be really hard to, like, figure out, like, who's winning what and how they're, like, and sort of, like, getting a good main event, especially since, like, there's no Knockouts title match on the line at that show currently either, and it starts to feel like, well, who could you put in as a stopgap between now and then? So I don't know, but I don't know. It's been a long road for Kazarian, and they've kind of kept him strong. So I do kind of feel it's his hometown. They might put the title on him. So I do kind of think that has been building for a while. And perhaps, like, the main reason Ethan Page is here is to feud with Joe Hendry for a few months while Kazarian holds that belt until, like, again, maybe Slammiversary or Bound for Glory or whatever else it is, and then he's gonna, like, hand it off to somebody else. I'm not 100% sure who that would be, but again, you could sort of, like, start implying who it could be at some point. But I could see that, but I feel like if you're going to put the title on Kazarian, that even makes me even more, like, feeling like, wow, they're not going to put it on Tessa, because, like, yes, having a quote unquote bad end to the show, but at least if there's something else to kind of, like, sink your teeth into, people will be, like, happy with that. Like, they won't probably be that happy that Joe lost the belt, but, like, I don't know. Like, maybe they won't. I kind of feel like a lot of stuff currently, like, with a few wrestlers has kind of, like, started to surpass, like, what, Kazarian was kind of doing and the direction they were kind of going with him. So it's kind of like, oh, yeah, we kind of promised you this, and, well, now we've kind of got to try to deliver on it, at least deliver a main event of some sort with you in it. So I don't know, but, like, I do feel that way about this. But again, it does make me feel like you wonder about the other matches, because it feels like, oh, that's even worse if this is the other part of the match. Now, regarding Unbreakable, there are three-way matches or triple threat matches that are going down at Unbreakable. I don't know which order to kind of, like, talk about these in, but I guess it doesn't matter that much, I guess. Eddie Edwards versus Ace Austin versus Steve Macklin. Zachary Wentz versus JDC versus Eric Young. A.G. Francis versus Mace Warner and Sami Callihan. Now, all of these guys are in the tournament to crown the first TNA International Champion. So, yeah, it is interesting in some ways, but again, it feels like these three matches, it can't be the whole friggin' show. Like, it's cool. Like, again, maybe like one of each of these people are gonna win, and then the winners of the matches are gonna be in the final main event, from what I understand. Like, so at least that's my understanding. First round match. Actually, wait. Like the AJ Francis. Oh yeah, I guess I don't know. Not too sure. It doesn't. The only one that says first round match is the AJ Francis Warner Callahan match. The other ones just say championship tournament. Okay, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. I feel like this for Callahan and Warner is just a stopgap. Like, this is just a bump on the road in their kind of feud. So this really, like, neither of them, in my opinion, are going forward and becoming the champion. In my opinion. Like, perhaps that was their idea for Mace to, like, come in and beat PCO for the title. I think that was perhaps the idea at one point or another. It didn't work out, and they decided to go a different direction, and they actually decided to get a full new championship. I don't know whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, but, like, we've seen a few of these, like, sort of mid-card style titles, and, like, most of them really haven't worked, or they haven't really put enough emphasis or time or energy or effort or consistency in booking those sorts of things. So, and booking a mid-card title can be really difficult. Especially since it was like the digital media title was kind of an intergender title. I think that kind of really hurt the identity of the title. Like, I don't think they really knew what to do with it, kind of. And it would be good to see it on Mace in some way, but, like, again, he doesn't really need it per se, and he kind of needs to finish his feud with Callahan, and then he can come back and do something else. Like, it's really tough for me to point to somebody and say this is the person to put it on out of any of these people, because it's like, I don't see the point in most of them winning it. Like, JDC, I don't think that he'd win it. There's just no real reason for him to win it. Eric Young, again, no real reason for him to win it. Eddie Edwards, no reason. Ace, maybe a little bit of a reason, just to give him something else to do. Like, anybody you could say, okay, well, let's give you something to do with this title for a few months or whatever it is, and then we'll wrap that up, or whatever else it is. Macklin's saying, like, a lot of these guys, like, almost all, in fact, I'm just going to say all of these guys, it would just be another thing that they could do. Like, honestly, like, again, AJ Francis and Navarro, they're a tag team. Wentz is basically a tag team guy. Warner and Callahan don't really need the belt. JDC is basically a jobber, so I don't see that. Ace Austin, Ace Austin, Eddie Edwards, and Steve Macklin might be the more interesting one, because it's like all of these guys are kind of like in that upper mid card area right now, but they're all trying to break through to the heavyweight division. But I still feel like Ace needs to be built up a lot more if you're going to push him as the world championship level guy. Like, I think that, again, it does take a lot of outside the ring work, certainly, but it certainly also takes a lot of in the ring work. You need to get people over, not to say that he's not over, but you need to get him feeling like people believe that he can win that title, even if he's a heel at some point, I don't know. But yeah, like, whoever wins it, you've got to think like, oh wow, they're destined for great things in the future. I don't really know. Like, Again, I don't see Callahan or Warner winning this because I just see that their feud's going to continue and they're going to might come back to doing this. So I see Francis probably winning their match. Then let's think here. Actually, wait a minute. I think this is why I was so confused. Because 2 of these matches are actually on Unbreakable. And the AJ Francis Warner Callahan match isn't. It's actually on TNA Impact. And I thought that they said something about that. And I thought, well, they must have made a mistake of some sort because clearly they goofed up somewhere or something. But yeah, it must be next week or something. I don't know. Anyway, Francis is moving on in that one, and I guess he's like going to be in the main event, and then you've got either Wentz, JDC, or Young going forward in their match, and then Macklin, Edwards, and Austin. You've got this big feud with EY and Macklin, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was EY and Macklin, because that kind of makes some amount of sense in that regard, because it's like, oh, okay, let's find a time to actually bring these two together and do something big and do something interesting with them. And you also have the potential of having the title on the line, I guess, in some ways. So I could see that. I definitely can't see JDC winning this. And I can't really see Wentz winning this. So I would pick EY, and just because of that story reason, going into the next match, I would pick Macklin. But it's sort of hard for me to 100% say, because it is like Ace Austin like is kind of there, and I do kind of feel like you kind of need to keep him like floating around, or at least like featured strongly. So it is like, well, let's do more with him, and let's see what we can do with him. So I don't know. Very tough to sort of say that, because I do think Austin does deserve to be pushed up that card. And for the last 6-man, I guess, which will be EY, AJ, and Macklin, I kind of feel like you probably put it on EY. That's a good, champion to put it on. Good base champion, a guy who's basically done everything in the company, and he can easily feud with a bunch of other guys that are around the company. And then you've got Macklin there. It kind of would be better, honestly, if they weren't fighting for the international championship and they were just fighting for the world championship. I think that would make more sense to me in many ways. So I kind of want to ignore that they're going to do this with that title, but it makes the most sense story-wise, or in terms of like who you would think wins these fights. So I don't know. That is where I'm at with this at this point. They might get more matches, like triple threat qualifying matches or whatever else it is, but it's very much like at this point me thinking, hey, well, where are we at? So I do have the interest in some of that, but it is it is tough. I'm just trying to look and see. But I can't really find it, so probably can't find it, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't think I'll find it. I'll be here for forever and a day trying to find you know, this stuff here. So I kind of feel like, though, in that regard, it is very much like, well, perhaps again you're starting to think of like you brought in Elias or Elijah there, so it is very much like, well, we want to give him a good main event to kind of work with, but do we want him to face Henry? Do we really want to turn him heel? Like, what's the dealio? Like, maybe you do. Maybe you still can. Maybe that is still the plan. I don't know. I don't think it would be, though. But I do see now, like, if you say, okay, let's put the title on Kazarian, like, probably the biggest match that he can have at Slammiversary is against Elijah. So you start building that out and you start thinking, you know, what's next? What is next? Like, I don't think Elijah should win the TNA title. And then you start going, well, who are they going to put, you know, into that position? Because you can't keep Kaz there for too long. You know. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not. It does feel like you start looking at saying guys like you know, Mustafa Ali and Santana and other guys like that are the guys that I feel like, you know, should be, you know, like being put in those positions and thought about, okay, like, let's, you know, figure out how do we get these guys into those spaces, into those places that they need to be so that we can have, you know, these guys as our champion. Not just saying, you know, from a, you know, in ring because they're probably already there, or in terms of the crowd, you know, let's, you know, make sure, because Santana's been doing a bit of media work and whatnot. I've seen around there a bit, but yeah, you always need to be doing a whole lot to do that. It's a lot of work and a lot of effort to be the face of the company, even for a short period of time. Even if, again, you're a heel, you've got to be doing that work. You've got to be in those arenas and whatnot, and, you know, getting those tickets sold, even if it's just for people to kind of see you get your ass, you know, handed to you or whatever else it is. So I'm just going to quickly scroll through thinking about people that I think, besides like that could be in that position right now. No one really comes to mind. You could have Matt Cardona come in for a big spot or whatever else it is at some point with the title. So I just don't think that there's much there. No. So I really don't. I don't see much here, honestly. I really don't. Unless you're gonna push like Leon Slater up the card really quickly. Like, and I don't think you should do that. I think you should let him grow naturally and sort of get there naturally. I do think Ace Austin's probably like the best bet person. But it does be like, well, you know, what else do we need to do here? How else do we need to get going on that? So I think we've covered everything for now. I'm sure they will announce more things in the upcoming weeks, and it is good to see that they're also putting stuff for Under Siege. It is kind of weird, like, and it is going to be a bit of a like sideball show. Like, I feel like you could kind of like it's already got a bunch of triple threats. Like, I don't want to see just triple threats, but like you could easily see the knockouts 4-way match at Under Siege. I think Mace Warner and Callahan, whatever match, like a body bag match, has kind of been floating around because they've been saying we'll put you in a body bag and whatnot and all of that stuff here and there. Has been kind of floating around that idea. That's probably happening at Rebellion. I do feel like Callahan's probably losing that though, still, just to get Warner over and on the roster more so, because he needs that kind of build just to sort of start getting somewhere and further in and whatnot. So yeah, I do feel like you could see that happening, and it like I think like perhaps like again you start wondering whether like some of these reports of like Joe Hendry leaving TNA is overblown a bit. Like, what if he stays? Like, I've said this thousands of times. Like, people shouldn't just assume, but we've heard it so much. We heard a lot from people saying that Jordan was probably leaving. So, and apparently there's people leaving after the whole Gail Kim thing, or people aren't re-signing or whatever. There was a few things that were kind of going on and being chaotic at a certain time. Like, they really need to refresh their roster and bring in some new people. Like, the NXT people just aren't doing it. Like, especially when, like, most of the people, or at least, like, in my perspective, I don't know who the heck any of these people are. Like, I've never heard of them basically one iota, except for, like, a handful of people that are, at the top. Like, Ricky Saints, Ethan Page, Roxanne Perez, people like that. The people that are, way up there. Not people that, just kind of there and exist. Like, the mid-card people or the people below that. No clue, bro. No clue. But yeah, it's kind of good. But it's also kind of bad because it's like, most of the stuff that's happening with the TNA and NXT people is like, well, I guess right now at least it's more mid-card sort of stuff. At least right now. So, I don't know. I don't know. But we'll wait and see. Lots more to come in the upcoming weeks. Up to Rebellion, a fair few weeks. Not many weeks to Under Siege, though. Or Unbreakable. See, I keep getting them confused. I'm going to keep getting them confused until, like we're past both of them, probably. I'm going to keep saying the wrong one here and there. So, but whatever. Yeah, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this one. And I hope you guys will join me again in another one.